So we're about to start the Japanese portion of turn 1 here in Operation Live and Let Die. Officially 1.3 is the portion of the turn. So before I get into what I'm going to be doing with the Japanese, just wanted to point out a couple of mistakes I did make on Germany's portion here of turn 1. Now, thankfully, none of the mistakes affected gameplay in any way, shape, or form, but I still appreciate you guys pointing out any of the missteps that I make. I want this to be as accurate as possible. So, first for Germany, I went ahead and said there was no combat, then went on to non-combat moves and moved the German mountain infantry into Austria to annex Austria. So that was a mistake. It is considered a combat move, even though it's not any kind of declaration of war or doesn't bring Germany into conflict with any nation, but it is considered a combat move. So that should have just been done a step earlier on the combat phase of Germany's turn. Again, didn't affect anything in the gameplay whatsoever, but wanted to point that out. Also, I had delivered Germany lend-leased a artillery unit to nationalist Spain, and I sent that down on the lend-lease portion of Germany's turn, and it shouldn't have been sent down until the place units phase at the end of Germany's turn. Again, there was no issue with the gameplay because all I did was simply deliver the artillery piece into Leon Castile. It didn't move, attack, or anything this turn. So again, it didn't affect any gameplay, but it should have been placed later in the turn. And the reason for that was this is one thing that I did have incorrect. And again, this also didn't affect any kind of gameplay, but in both my solo games prior to this, I was under the impression that for Germany obviously controls nationalist Spain, so I treated it like Germany would go their turn, complete their turn, and then nationalist Spain would go. And same thing for Russia, who obviously controls the Republicans in Spain. I would have the Russians complete their turn, and then the Republicans go. So it's supposed to be simultaneous. So Germany and nationalist Spain, their turn is simultaneous, same as Russia and the Republicans. And how that could affect things, and it didn't on this turn because, again, all I simply did is deliver the artillery piece. But in my prior game, since I was considering the nationalists having to go after Germany, I was allowing Germany to deliver Lend-Lease on a given turn, and then the nationalists being able to use that unit on the same turn. And then same thing for the Russians and the Republicans. So I would have the Russians deliver a unit into Spain and the Republicans use it on the same turn. And because they go simultaneously, that wouldn't be allowed. So again, I didn't do that thankfully I didn't do that in this game, but now I've been corrected to have Germany and nationalist Spain go simultaneously. So just wanted to clear up those couple of things. Again, thankfully, it didn't affect gameplay at all. So we will get to the Japanese. They only have one major factory right now, and that is in Tokyo. So we get a single tech roll for the Japanese, and we are going to shoot for wartime economy. So I need to get a 7 or higher, and we got a 5. So no breakthrough for the Japanese here on turn number 1. So for income, Japan has $16 to spend, and we're going to spend the whole 16. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and purchase is 2 Marines. Now, these are just going to be the regular Marines. They're not the special naval landing force. So 2 regular Marines at $4 a piece, and the sculpt I'm using, that's a little out of focus, is from the HBG America game. So that's kind of like a post-World War II what-if game, which I highly recommend, by the way. But I'm using that sculpt, which is regular Japanese infantry. In that game, I'm going to use that sculpt for the Japanese Marines. So I'm going to go ahead and purchase 2 of the regular Japanese Marines. And then I'm going to go ahead and upgrade the medium factory in Kyushu to a major. That's $6. 8 for the 2 Marines. That's 14. And then up here in Rehe, I am going to upgrade that militia to a regular infantry for $2. So there's the 2 Marines, the upgraded factory to a major, and the upgraded militia to a regular infantry. And that will cover the full $16 that the Japanese have to spend. So now let's see if I can go ahead and get this correct. Now there's no, I'll say it again and hopefully I'll actually be correct this time. So no combat moves for Japan. We're not going into China or anything like that. So Japan is just going to simply maneuver units around the board. So we should be able to skip combat and go straight to non-combat moves. So first, we're going to have this motorized infantry up in northern Manchuria come down to Rehe. Okay. Then we also have over here in eastern Manchuria, we're going to have both of those infantry and the cavalry also go to Rehe. So 2 infantry and the cavalry go over to Rehe. The infantry in Korea is going to go up 1 to eastern Manchuria. And the militia is going to stay there in eastern Manchuria with it. Okay. So that's it for movement on the Chinese mainland. Now we're going to go ahead and one special ability of the Japanese is their destroyers are able to transport 1 infantry class unit. So I have 2 destroyers over here in C Zone 38. So 1 destroyer is going to pick up the infantry in Kyushu and come down to Formosa. Okay. So that destroyer picked up that infantry and came down to Formosa. Then the other destroyer that's in that same C zone will come down with the infantry from, I'm not going to even try to pronounce it, the northern Japanese home island up there. So now there's a total of 3 destroyers down in C Zone 89, and those 2 destroyers took an infantry each down there. Okay. Then the fighter that was in Formosa is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, land in Rehe, and I'll clean that all up after the end of the video. I'll go ahead and chip out all those infantry. So that fighter is now in Rehe. Then we're going to go ahead and take both of my carriers that are in C Zone 38, a fleet carrier and a light carrier, and they are going to come down to C Zone 89 in Formosa as well. And again, I'll clean all this up at the end of the video. The transport that is in 89 is going to go up 1, 2, up into C Zone 38. Okay. So I'll just move these 2 carriers over. Okay. Then we're also going to have this battle cruiser and this heavy cruiser also come down to C Zone 89. So I'll probably end up having to go ahead and put a marker down and move all these ships off onto one of HBG's markers. So those two are also in 89. Okay. Then we're going to have the light cruiser and the heavy cruiser from C-Zone 54 also come down to 89. Okay. So that should be it for the ships that I'm moving into 89. And they're all within movement range. They only moved 1 or 2. And most of those ships have upwards of a 3 movement. Or even 4, because they started from territories that have major naval facilities. But regardless, in C-Zone 89 here off of Formosa, there is going to be 3 destroyers, 2 heavy cruisers, 1 light cruiser, a battle cruiser, a fleet carrier, and a light carrier. The light carrier has a fighter, and the fleet carrier has a tactical bomber and a fighter on it. And then on Formosa itself is a militia and 2 Japanese infantry. Okay. Then in the Japanese home waters, we are going to go ahead and fly this fighter that was in Tokyo. 1, 2, 3 can easily reach, and that's going to land in Rehe as well. Okay. So that should be it for Rehe. So Rehe's going to have 2 fighters, 4 infantry, a cavalry, a militia, and a motorized infantry. Then we're going to go ahead and take all of these ships in C-Zone 56 and move them just over 1 C-Zone over to 38. So that heavy cruiser, this submarine, another transport, and a torpedo boat destroyer. So now in C-Zone 38, you have 2 battleships, 2 subs, a heavy cruiser, a torpedo boat destroyer, and 5 transports. This motorized infantry is going to come down 1 into Tokyo. So Tokyo now has 2 tactical bombers, an infantry, and a motorized infantry. Okay. And I believe that is it for the Japanese. Their non-combat movements should be over. Again, I'll go ahead when I finish the video and go ahead and chip out and clean up some of the mess. So now for unit placement, we're going to go ahead and replace the militia in Rehe with the infantry we upgraded. So now that's up to 5 infantry in Rehe. Okay. Then obviously the medium factory in Kyushu gets upgraded to a major complex. And then our 2 Marines we're going to put into Tokyo. Okay. So that should be it for the Japanese. One thing also I forgot to mention, another mistake I made on turn 1 is Germany did have 2 units in the place units box that I could have put on the board, a destroyer and a submarine. Not a big deal, just because they weren't going to, I was just going to simply put them down. They're not going to be engaging in any kind of probably even movement for a while. So not a huge deal, but I'll have to remember that for next turn. And then Japan does have a fleet carrier and a heavy cruiser here in stage 3, but I'm not moving them along at all. They're just going to stay where they're at. So that should be it for Japan. Now collect income. They're at $16 worth of territories again. And they do get the $3 bonus for, if we take a look over here, we do get the $3 bonus for oil trade with the United States. So that is a peacetime income increase, and it's decreased by 1 each time that Japan makes a combat move into a land zone. So obviously Japan didn't make any combat moves, so they get the full $3 there. So that's going to be a total of $19 Japan will collect. The tech chart doesn't go up. We didn't succeed there. And that should finish off my Japanese turn. just wanted to give a shout out to Global War Enthusiast. I liked his video, and definitely gave me something to think about in Spain. He got a good role for the recruitment there. So we'll see how things turn out with Fighting Irish on the British turn coming up. Thanks for watching.